On the 25th of December, 2000, 25 years ago today, the Walking with Dinosaurs special, The Ballad of Big Al, released. Today, all these years later, I will be re-breaking this episode down. The special is set 145 million years ago in Wyoming. It is, like Time of the Titans, set in the Morrison Formation, but the environment is much more accurate. It was filmed in Arizona mostly, but the Salt Plain scenes were filmed in Utah. Big Al is mostly depicted as the same as the Allosaurus in Time of the Titans, which are based on Allosaurus fragilis. But recently, Big Al was reclassified as within Allosaurus jumadzeni, which was named in 2020. Allosaurus jumadzeni is generally said to have lived 155 to 152 million years ago, meaning it would have gone extinct approximately 7 million years prior to the episode's setting. Ironically, this would mean that Al would have fit into Time of the Titans. However, 2024's paper on the biostratigraphy of the Morrison Formation suggests that Allosaurus jumadzeni was in fact contemporaneous with Allosaurus fragilis, would have been able to appear in this episode. Al is the first named creature in the Walking With series. Al is stated to have been 9 meters long, when the fossil in reality is 7.5 meters long. Allosaurus is not known to have been sexually dimorphic, so we cannot know whether Al was male or female based on morphology alone. However, in 2023 SVP abstract identified material in some of Al's bones which may have been a medullary bone. The medullary bone is found only in female birds, particularly those in the process of developing eggs, suggesting that Al may have actually been a female. Allosaurus returns from Time of the Titans with a new, much more accurate model. Its head ornamentation is correctly placed in front of the eyes rather than above them, and its skull shape is much more accurate. Allosaurus was an allosaurid allosaur from the late Jurassic, 155 to 145 million years ago, of the US and Portugal, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Allosaurus is still shrink-wrapped. Allosaurus most likely had lips, and it is depicted as cannibalistic, an activity that is common in almost all carnivorous animals, and therefore is very likely to have occurred in Allosaurus. Unlike in Time of the Titans, Allosaurus is given a more accurate social structure, being almost completely solitary, except when raising young and forming loose temporary gangs to hunt. There are no Allosaurus jumadzeni that grow to 10 meters long, like the big female in the episode. It's possible that this was based on the species that at the time was known as Allosaurus maximus, but was until recently known as its own genus, Saurophaganax. As of a study in December 2024, Saurophaganax is now a nomen dubium, with its remains being made up of various indeterminate sauropods, and the Allosaurian remains belonging to a new species of Allosaurus, Allosaurus annex. The baby Allosaurus are accurately depicted as not just being tiny versions of the adults. Neurognathus returns from Time of the Titans. A Neurognathus was a Neurognathid from the late Jurassic, approximately 150 to 148 million years ago, of Germany, meaning it went extinct approximately 3 million years before the episode setting and lived on the complete wrong continent to appear. The Neurognathus looks more like a retooled Dinosaurs than a Neurognathid, which as of newer discoveries should look more like a nightjar or frogmouth with almost no neck and a wider, shorter face. This is partly down to misidentification, as the giant eye sockets of Neurognathid's were originally mistaken for fenestrae, and the eyes were accordingly placed further back and made smaller than they should have been. It should also fill a niche similar to nightjars, meaning being a nocturnal insectivore rather than a small scavenger. It should have a heavy coating of pycnofibers, and its wings should fold backwards rather than to the sides when it lands. Brachiosaurus also returns from Time of the Titans. Brachiosaurus was a brachiosaurid titanosauriform from the late Jurassic, 154 to 150 million years ago, of North America, meaning it lived in the right place to appear but went extinct approximately 5 million years before the episode's setting. Brachiosaurus should have a bulkier chest with 4 limbs more spread apart. It should have a longer torso. The Brachiosaurus's head crest is shown being a thin ridge, when it should be more of a dome-like soft tissue covered structure. The legs should be thicker and longer, and it may have had a shorter tail, although the tail of Brachiosaurus is not known, and based on its relatives, it should be slightly shorter. Another creature returning from Time of the Titans is Stegosaurus. Stegosaurus was a stegosaurid stegosaur from the late Jurassic, 155 to 145 million years ago, of the United States and Portugal, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Stegosaurus is depicted as having very long back legs. Although in reality Stegosaurus's back legs were a bit longer than its front legs, they were much closer in length than is depicted in this series. But this was a much more recent discovery based on a specimen known as Sophie the Stegosaurus, which was discovered in 2003 after the episode released. So the representation in the episode is accurate to what was known at the time. Stegosaurus's plates would have been covered in a horny sheath rather than skin. It should have 5 rather than 4 toes on its front feet and 2 claws rather than 3. Stegosaurus's plates were actually much smaller in reality than were depicted in this special, and it should have a shorter neck and tail, as well as flatter thagomizers running almost horizontal from the tail. The Stegosaurus's plate arrangement is correct, being alternating, not paired, in an accurate number of 17 plates. Stegosaurus is accurately reconstructed with throat armor. Apatosaurus was an apatosaurian diplodocid from the late Jurassic, 152 to 145 billion years ago, of North America, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It uses a modified Diplodocus model, which is fitting as they reasonably close relatives. Due to this, it has many inaccuracies which carry over from Diplodocus, such as the fact that it would have held its neck in a more elevated position, not horizontal. It's shrink-wrapped. It would most likely have had more soft tissue on its neck. Nostrils are much higher on its head than they would have been in reality, and its toes should be more distinct rather than having elephantine feet. Dinosaurs, which appeared in Time of the Titans, although it was not identified by name, returns, now with a different design. Dinosaurs was a dryomorphan iguanodontian from the late Jurassic, 155 to 145 million years ago, of the United States, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It is possible that Dinosaurs would have had feathers in reality. Ornitholestes too returns from Time of the Titans. Ornitholestes was a basal monomorphin, possibly even removed Raptorosaur, from the late Jurassic, 154 million years ago, of North America. And it lived in the right place to appear, but went extinct approximately 9 million years before the episode setting. It is incredibly unlikely that Ornitholestes had a nasal crest, since this was mistakenly interpreted based on damage to the skull snout. Regardless of whether or not it is restored with the crest, the skull anatomy is still inaccurate, as the snout should curve slightly downwards at the tip. The Ornitholestes should have small sickle claws on each of its feet, and it should have a full feather coat rather than just claws. The Ornitholestes is shrink-wrapped and has pronated wrists. Its head is too large compared to its body. Dragonflies appear. Dragonflies evolved in the early Jurassic, meaning that they would have been around by the setting of the episode. There are no dragonfly fossils known from the Morrison Formation. Axolotls appear. True axolotls are members of the species Ambystoma mexicanum, which evolved only within the last 1,000 years and is known from Mexico only. It is likely that they are meant to represent non-specific young salamanders. If so, there is a salamander of unknown placement from the Morrison Formation, Iridiotriton. A scorpion appears. There are no scorpions known from the Morrison Formation. The genus Othnielia, alongside Othniellosaurus and Trinca, is now synonymous with Nanosaurus. Nanosaurus was a nanosaurid neornithischian from the late Jurassic, 155 to 148 million years ago, of the United States of America, meaning it lived in the right place to appear but went extinct approximately 3 million years before the episode setting. Othnielia uses a modified version of the Dryosaurus, Leelinosaura, and late Cretaceous ornithischian model. Since it reuses the same model as Dryosaurus within the same episode, they are the same size relative to each other. But this is not realistic. Dryosaurus grew up to more than 3 meters long, whilst Nanosaurus reached a max of 2 to 2.2 meters long. It is possible that the Othnielia should have feathers. An interesting speculative behavior is shown for Othnielia, following Stegosaurus around to steal leftover food, as well as for protection from predators. Cycads appear in the episode. There is a possible cycad, Nilsonia, known from the Morrison Formation. although it may belong to its own order, Nosoniales instead. However, it would still be a relative of cycads in that case. A lizard, externally identified as Paramethalodus, appears. Paramethalodus was a paramethaloded skinkomorph from the late Jurassic to early Cretaceous, 168 to 93 million years ago, of England, France, Portugal, and the US, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Is live acted by a Chinese water dragon. This is not a particularly accurate representation, as paramethalodids were more closely related to, and therefore resembled, modern skinks. The predator trap is based on an outdated interpretation of the Cleveland Lloyd quarry. Because a large confluence of Allosaurus, but not many other animals, was found, it was thought that this was a predator trap which had lured in and killed the multitude of Allosaurus. The more recent hypothesis is that it was a location where the remains of these Allosaurus all collected after being washed there by floods. The final creature to return from Time of the Titans is Diplodocus. Diplodocus was a diplodocene, diplodocid flagellichordate, or whip-tailed sauropod, from the late Jurassic, 154 to 152 million years ago, of North America, meaning it lived in the right place to appear, but it went extinct approximately 7 million years before the episode's setting. Later discoveries have shown that Diplodocus would have held its neck in a more elevated position, not completely horizontal as is shown in this special. The Diplodocus are too shrink-wrapped, and it would most likely have had more soft tissue on its neck. Its nostrils should be much lower down on its head than shown as in the special, and its hind feet should have longer toes and bigger claws rather than just elephantine feet. Although back spines are not actually known from Diplodocus itself, they are known from close relative, meaning it was likely it had them in real life. However, the depiction in Ballad Big Owl has too few spines, as they should extend further along the tail, possibly to its tip. And that was the Ballad of Big Owl. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Next, I will be breaking down Walking with Beasts in November of next year. If you like this video, you can leave a like. I have a Discord server and a second channel, both in the description below, and I hope you have a very good day and a Merry Christmas to all of you at home.